So we're going to talk a little bit about our family, our heart for ministry, and about Gimli Bible Camp and just how they all come together. So our family, we have a very outdoorsy country family. We love living in the country. And you can flip through the pictures 10, 15 seconds and stop at the horse painting one. So our kids love playing outside. And as a family, we read lots of history. So on our yard is often transformed into these historical battlegrounds. And it's quite something to behold, and I think people who often pass by our house just wonder what is going on with these people, because there are just really weird and random things happening all the time. And it's just amazing how they repurpose things, and it's really cool to see the creativity in our children. And on top of that, all three of them are quite the leaders. They all have leadership giftings, and they're just growing more and more into leaders. And we were thinking when we had Fletcher, it's like, oh, it's time we have a follower, right? But no, apparently not. So a couple of weeks ago, I caught them playing a game where Fletcher was the king. And whatever he said, his older brother and sister, Jade and Charlie, would do. And it was quite something to see, and it was a little bit dangerous. And I'm sure happy that 3-year-olds aren't kings today. I'll tell you that. So early on in our family, we decided that we wanted to do a family-centered model of ministry. It was important to us to serve the church and serve God with our family. So not just me and Amanda serving the Lord, but pulling our kids into it. So we have a real heart for youth ministry in particular. We've been involved with youth since we were teenagers and just love serving them. So it's been really good and challenging bringing our kids along in that journey to youth nights. But it's been amazing to see their impact as well on youth, and often how they can break down some hard walls in teenagers' lives where we just wouldn't get through, wouldn't get those smiles get into their lives. So that's cool to see. And our heart's just to engage our children's faith in all areas, all realms of their life. It's so important to us. I think everyone has a part to play in the kingdom of God. It's amazing the diverse talents and gifts He's given us. And every Christian adult is a discipler. The opportunities to engage with our kids, our grandkids, nieces and nephews, our children's friends in matters of faith are endless, and they're really important. I just want to share a little story from one of my friends. So one of my friends growing up, his dad grew up in a really challenging childhood. His dad was an alcoholic. His brothers are really abusive towards him. And this is a story that was similar to lots of the campers who came to the Gimli Bible Camp. So he got invited to a friend's birthday party, and he went to this birthday party. And at the party, the dad was playing with the boys and was treating them really nice. And my dad's friend just, what is going on here? This just wasn't normal. We didn't know what was happening, why the dad would take time to play with the kids, why the dad was treating them so nice. And it was at that party that he decided that he was going to be like that father, that he was going to treat his kids nice and to love them and to spend time with them. He met Jesus a little bit later on in his life, and he became saved, and it was just amazing to see, to be friends with that family, right, and to see the difference that a loving father made, right, and just how he spoke life into that family, how he loved them, and how he shared Jesus with them, and just how the family served Jesus. So it's just amazing to see how children are one carrying adults away from a decision of following him, regardless of what lifestyle they're built from, regardless of what hardships have happened in their life. God can really grab their hearts and change them. Is that you?
Good morning, so I'm Amanda, and I'm just going to share a little bit about more about our family part. TJ's going to get into the camp ministry a little bit more, but this thing of, even when we're introduced, like, oh, we're starting a horse ranch, it's like, that sounds really shocking to me. And the truth is like, we're not really sure what the Lord's doing, but He is doing something. And we're just I feel like we're just along for the ride, and it's been developing as we go. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what brought us here. I feel like our lives have been a bit of a roller coaster of different involvements. So TJ and I were both passionate about youth group, like he said, and we got involved with teenagers when we just got out of youth group. And then when we were engaged, just thinking about this this week, when we were engaged and early married, his family was running an agritourism farm called the Scarecrow Forest, and one of his mom's passions was to reach out to the inner city kids in Winnipeg and get those kids in for like as little as possible. And she just really worked at getting them in there and just getting them into the wide open spaces and touching animals and just seeing them come alive and the effect that that had on them. And so that was kind of the first thing that TJ and I were really involved in together. It paired TJ's giftings really well because TJ was a leader and he got to do some of the vision work and some of the management work with his mom and dad, and also a lot of the hands-on work. So he was very physical, building stuff, and so it was a really good fit for him. And I kind of came in and my part was like, I was kind of like connecting with the teenage staff and also doing pony rides, and so bringing kind of this horse element into it. And so that's kind of where it started, and that, it kind of felt like that was going to be a long-term plan for us. And it didn't turn out that way. TJ's mom passed away, and it just kind of lost its heart. And so shortly after that, we felt like God called us to Alberta. And so we left everything here, which was a really big step. It was the first time anyone in either of our family had left kind of the southeast Manitoban bubble. And so we up and went to Alberta because we found this place where TJ would have a job as head of maintenance at a Christian ministry horse ranch. And so he had this leadership position where he could work physically, and that seemed to meld his gifts together really well. And it was like this horse ranch, and I have this awful obsession. And the Lord's just been, it's been my own journey in my life to hold this hobby, obsession, passion, whatever we want to call it, in check with what my true purpose is, and God and ministry to people, and how he's been showing me how to use that to that end. And so I learned a lot, we learned a lot at Bayview Ranch in Alberta about how that can work. And yeah, we learned a lot there, and we both felt like we were thriving there. We were ready to put down roots. We had this idea we would do like a 5-year and then re-evaluate plan. We made it 3 years, and then they cut TJ's position. And so just like that, what we were very committed to and putting roots into was kind of the rug was ripped out from under us, and we were again like, what now? So it's just been this like thing of, for us, like investing and finding something that we fit in, that fits us, and wanting to serve the Lord, and feeling like we've arrived several times, and then the Lord being suddenly like, well, this isn't quite it, just hang on. And so, long story short, the Lord has brought us to Gimli, and we do feel like this is, I mean, we say it with much more trepidation than we used to, but we do feel like we're here for, well, I mean, I guess as long as God calls us, but we want to invest here. We want to be a part of what the Lord's doing here. We have a heart for Gimli Bible Camp and for their mission, and TJ will talk a little bit more about specifically what that is. We also have a heart to get involved more in the community stuff and the youth in this area. We have a heart for. And I just want to touch on again, TJ talked about a family model of ministry. When we were first in youth group, it started when Jade was a little girl. She was our first baby, and she was in a little bucket seat. And we started taking her to youth nights with us. And we had some of our team saying, I think this is going to be a distraction. I don't think this is going to work. I think you need to get babysitting and just come and focus on the kids. And that was a valid perspective. But then our pastor was like, no, if you want to involve your family in your ministry, you do it, and I'll support you, and you can send the naysayers to me. So we just kind of went for it, and it's been really hard to involve the kids, but it's been very rewarding. Like TJ mentioned, I take the kids to Gimli Bible Camp, and the campers will play with them and interact with them, and it creates a very different, I don't know, dynamic. They have something to offer too, and we all have something to offer, and that's part of what TJ is going to talk about too. So this is kind of what we're doing. So now we've bought this property, and this last, let's say, 7 months, we've acquired 4 more horses that have just been like given to me pretty much. Well, between all 4 of them, they've just been given to me. And it's been crazy because it's not been something I've been pursuing, but the Lord has just been doing it, and I feel like he's building something. Our heart is to use our property and to use our horses and to use our animals to minister to people, to whoever wants to come and hang out with them, and particularly for the camp, we want to partner with the camp. And so So we're partnering with Gimli Bible Camp, and we have the campers over, but it's its own thing that the Lord is building. And so as far as we're starting up a horse ranch, I guess we are, but we don't even really know what that looks like or where God's going with that. But we want to share what God's given us, and we see the impact that it has on people and how therapeutic it can be just to be in the country and be with animals. And the name, we call our ranch Rise Again Ranch. And there's 2 verses where this phrase comes up in the Bible that I just want to highlight. So the one is Micah 7 verse 8 says, "Do not gloat over me, my enemies, for though I fall, I will rise again. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light." So obviously our Savior Jesus Christ also died, and he rose again. It didn't defeat him. Death didn't defeat him. It didn't conquer him. And we feel like through our lives there's been lots of times of victory, but there's been lots of losses. There's been lots of times of great disappointment and confusion, and we feel like we've sometimes fallen. And it's easy to feel, probably I'll speak for myself because TJ's pretty optimistic, but I can feel really bitter. I can feel like throwing in the towel, like I'm all done with this ministry business. But the Lord keeps bringing us to rise again, and keeps showing us that along the way, it's not that these weren't the right things or that we hadn't arrived, but he's been training us, and he's been putting pieces together that we don't fully understand yet, but we're starting to see how our journey is building. And so it's not complete, and so we're not even sure what this all looks like, but we do see God at work, and we do. My encouragement to you, what I wanted to leave with you was that we all have this, and TJ will talk about kind of these 2 different tracks that we see in the Psalms, but we have times of victory, times where we know God's with us, and God's for us, and God's delivering us, and we have times of disappointment where we are like, God, how long are you going to be silent? What are you doing? Where are you? We have these different experiences, and so my encouragement to you is just don't let yourself get bitter and want to give up. Keep pushing forward, and the Lord is doing something, and even though we can't see it. So the other verse, I'll try to find it yet, but it was a proverb, and it said, "Though the righteous fall 7 times, he will rise again." And so that's kind of where this phrase came from. I feel like that was a word from the Lord. So we call our place Rise Again Ranch, and as far as what that will look like, we'll see. Yes. Okay, so TJ just wanted me to mention there is a horse program called Crystal Peaks Youth Ranch. So if you are curious at all, I don't know that this is what we're going to become, but this is a place that really inspires us. It's a woman and her husband named Kim and Troy Meter. They love Jesus. They've grown through. She has just a horrible life story of her own, and an amazing story of redemption and coming to Jesus. And what they do is they rescue horses. So they also have horses given to them, or they buy them out of bad situations, and then they partner them with hurting teenagers or families or kids with disabilities, and they partner them, and they actually get them to do the work and to build trust with the animal again. And inevitably, when a person builds a bridge with an animal, something happens in their own hearts. There's a softening, there's an openness, and just how they see doors to the gospel opening up through their work at their ranch. So it's called Crystal Peaks Youth Ranch, and that's, like I said, we're not maybe trying to become them, but definitely an inspiration for us. So if you would read about them, you'll have an idea of what we want to do. Okay, go back one slide. TJ just wants me to explain about this painting. So throughout the summer, I'm not sure what to say, we painted horses. It was pretty cool. I would tie up a couple horses, and it was cool because some of the Gimli Bible campers came, and they would come, and you'd see them, they would want to touch the horses, but they were so scared because they were so big, and it would often kind of look like this, right? They'd do like this, and then like touch it, and kind of come back, and it was like, okay, it was okay. And then by the end of like the hour that they were there, they were painting on them and petting them, and it was pretty amazing.
Okay, we you go back to that slide. Okay, and then the picture with the boy with his hand in the halter. So this again was a camper from Gimli last year. And when this boy got to camp, right, tons of energy, running around, running off the walls and stuff. And when we got to the farm, I told him, man, let's just keep an eye on it, right? Because horses are pretty good, but when someone starts turning circles around on horses, you know, they can get a bit edgy, and bad things can happen. But again, it's just amazing to see the boy came and just calmed down with the horse, right, and just hang through the halter, right, and the horse matched the energy, and they just dropped down, right, and it's just amazing time when leaders can come and we can have conversations, right, and they're just connecting on such a special level, right, because otherwise we get to activities and stuff, right, and these campers are just bouncing off the walls, but it's just amazing what animals can do in their lives. It's really cool to see. So now you can flip slides, Don. So I'm going to talk about Gimli Bible Camp now. I'm not sure what you guys all know, so we'll just kind of start from the beginning, going through some of the history and where we're at today and stuff. But yeah, we're really excited about this ministry. So Gimli Bible Camp was started in 1928 by Lloyd Hunter, who had a huge heart for children who didn't know the gospel. And this heart started from a conversation he had with an alcoholic. He led him to the Lord. And the alcoholic just lamented to him. It's like, why didn't no one tell me this good news sooner? Right? I would have been spared. I would have saved so much hurt in my life, so much pain and stuff. So Lloyd thought and processed with the Lord and said, man, like, we need to reach the children, right? We need to share the good news so their trajectories in life can have a better outlook than this person. So that's what happened. So Lloyd came up to Canada and he started the Canadian Sunday School Mission, which later turned into One Hope Canada, which Gimli Bible Camp is a part of. So to start off, Lloyd and I had an idea of doing a Bible memory program. So we sent it out to all the kids in Manitoba, and anyone who memorized over 500 verses would come to camp and get a free week at camp. So that first summer, we had 29 campers there, and one of the kids memorized over 1,100 verses to get into camp that summer. I just want to share a story about Nick. So this was one of the campers in the early days there and stuff. So Nick was one of the campers who memorized his 500 verses, grew up on a rural farm. That's where many of the children came from early on. Memorized his verses, but he didn't have a way to get to camp. So he's like, I don't have a way. I'm just going to have to work at the farm all summer. But a Canadian Sunday School mission worker pulled up in the vehicle and said, Nick, I've come here. I'm going to take you to camp. He was pumped. That was awesome. So off he went to camp. And at camp, he was introduced to Jesus. And he found a relationship with Jesus. Right? He started that partnership. And it was just amazing to see how he walked it out with God. So Nick later on went to seminary, became a doctor. Preached in seminaries. He started a Bible camp in the States where tens of thousands of kids would come. He started an international Bible memory program. And it's just amazing to read and hear a bit about his story, right? And it started because he came to camp, he had opportunity to hear and learn about Jesus, and he took that chance. Again, just a few caring adults, and we don't know how the Lord works in these kids' lives, how he can transform them, how he can change them. So our mission stays the same today at Gimli Bible Camp. This is our mission statement. We present the gospel particularly to those having the least opportunity to hear of Christ, and especially to children and youth, and we disciple believers for living and serving through His church. So for the first number of decades at Gimli Bible Camp, our targeted kids were in the rural areas. Those are mostly the unchurched, but that's changed today. Now most of our campers come from the low-income areas in the city, so there's a number of different pockets in the city, and our campers come from all over the city. A large part of our campers come from foster families. Another large part come from single-parent homes and just low-income families. So this can make for some really challenging times at camp, right? These kids come from really broken situations. They can, and they can live in really rough parts of town. They can be extremely guarded, shut down, angry. Many have experienced various forms of abuse, and some are just in survival mode, right? You just don't see a smile, right? You can barely get any words out of them, stuff like that. And just talking with some people who are missionaries in these areas of the city and stuff, like the stories they have to share, what happens on the streets and what happens in these homes. For me, growing up and living in the country just feels like reading a fictional story about the stuff that can happen. So it's tough for them. So as the campers come with all the baggage that life is just thrown onto them, it's an amazing opportunity when they come to camp that we can practically show them God's love. We can give them a message of hope. All right. We can help open their eyes to a better future through Jesus. And we can introduce them to a relationship with Jesus. And that's just an amazing opportunity for these kids. So we're not a fancy camp by any means, but all our activities at Gimli Bible Camp, they just revolve around relationship building, right? We just want to build trust. We just want to build a relationship with them. We want the campers to feel safe with us, right? That we're a safe place. They can tell their stories. They can get stuff off their hearts, right? And we can just show them the love of Jesus, right? Regardless of what behavior, what attitudes they come with, what they pull. We love our campers there. So part of why we're here today and why we're sharing is because we want to invite you all into the mission at Gimli Bible Camp. Everyone has a part to play in God's mission in camp work and the church, and it all partners together really wonderfully, I think. Camp ministry, it's unique because there's such a diverse amount of jobs and skills required. It's not just a bunch of rowdy extroverts that run the camp world. And that's what I thought. When I wasn't in the camp world, it's like, man, those people are just energetic and off the walls, the leaders at camp and stuff. But it's really interesting. At the previous camp and at the camp we're at now, all the leadership team were like really far over on the introvert scale. So when camp comes, we're ready to go, but the rest of the year we kind of like stay around. So it's interesting that it works. But there's just so many things. So many different jobs and skill sets and just everything that can. From cooking to answering the phone, from hosting to being a listening ear, from fixing broken things to teaching in chapel, from cabin leading to lifeguarding, from taking pictures to mowing the lawn, from praying for staff and campers to leading devotions, from putting up band-aids to disciplining a child, from serving tuck to running around in the game, from cleaning to crafting. Right? There's just endless. Anyone can fit into camp ministry and come serve. Camp ministry allows us to grow in our strengths and also be challenged in our weaknesses. It practically teaches us how to work hard, how not to quit, how to solve conflicts, how to lead, how to take responsibility, how to take ownership, how to share your faith, how to serve others, how to trust God when you've got no strength left, how to create deep friendships. From the young ones to the oldest ones, these are all very valuable lessons to grow and produce fruit inside of the church. So please take this to the Lord in prayer. Gimli Bible Camp, we need your prayers and interceding for us the most. There are many spiritual battles fought at our camp. We need volunteers and summer missionaries to make this summer happen. It's a week, couple weeks, or all summer. We need help. We need you guys to help become recruiters for us to send people our way. And for our family as well, we just ask that you guys would pray for us and let us know that you're praying for us. We just really love it when people let us know that they're praying for us. It means so much to us. It just inspires us and helps us along, so we thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about Psalms 91. So we had a Gimli youth retreat a couple weekends ago. So the teenagers involved at our camp come for camp and summer and stuff. We had a retreat for them. And it was it was really interesting and heartbreaking, but to see just the brokenness, the hopelessness, the lostness, the anxiety, it was very tangible to see in all of these teens. I wouldn't have to use any descriptive words at all. If you could spend 1 minute in the room, you know exactly what I was talking about. You could look around the room and you can just see the brokenness and the hurt in their lives. It just came out so loud and clear. So it got me thinking, and I've been thinking for a while, right? What message of hope can I bring to these campers this summer, right? What message of hope can we bring to people who are really hurting and broken? What can we say? So I think Psalms 91 can stir up some good conversations, and it also brings up some really challenging questions, though. So it's one of those passages that's really good to wrestle with. So Amanda's going to read that for us.
So Psalm 91, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely he will save you from the fowler's snare, from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
So I think the Psalms brings up a really good faith wrestling question for us. And it goes something like this. So why do Christians suffer today? Why do we go through hard times? And should we go through hard times? So I think most of us would agree that God doesn't protect us from all harm, right? Hard things happen in our life. And yet I think often we have underlying beliefs to the contrary, right? And the Psalms like this one does a compelling job of making us feel like we're indestructible, right? 1,000 will fall here, 10,000 will fall there, right? But you won't be touched, right? So there's this idea that when we're in God, that man, we should be untouchable. So why do hard things still happen in our lives? So scholars are unsure who wrote Psalms 91, but it was most likely Moses or King David. And if we reflect on their lives, we can come to the conclusion pretty quickly that following God did not give them an easy or trouble-free life, but quite the contrary. So could you imagine Moses wandering around the desert for 40 years, right, with the grumbling Israelites? There was a lot of hardships and trials and toils in there. Right? And yet he could write something like this where he knew that God so had him in his hands. Or what about King David when he was running around the country with his life, right? Surrounded by a mob of bandits and misfits of society and stuff while the king was trying to kill him, right? That doesn't sound like an easy life either. And yet he could pen something like that and just know that God had him. So what do these guys know that we don't know? Because we look at their life circumstances and say, that doesn't sound very easy. That doesn't sound like God necessarily has my back in that. And we can also contrast it to other Psalms. So we can read Psalms 13, and it goes like this.
How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts, and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God, give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me.
So I think both Psalms are really relevant to our campers at Gimli Bible Camp. There's a message for both of them. Many of them, again, come from very hard life circumstances, right? Life isn't easy for them, and they can feel that God is quite distant in their lives, not caring about the hardships in their life. Why isn't God helping me in this? They feel like God's not hearing them out. They're not hearing their cries to Him. God isn't rescuing them from life's problems. Yet we can still offer them such hope of God's unfailing love. And that's where Psalms 91 really comes to life. So if we read Psalms 91 through the lens of God's care for us in the spiritual realm, I think it really comes to life in that context, in that way. So when we become sons and daughters of God, and our name is written in the book of life, nothing can undo that. Our enemy is powerless to change that, but it does not mean that the battle stops around us. Arrows that fly by day, pestilence at night, thousands falling around you doesn't paint a pretty picture, but God has us, whom we are sons and daughters of His. As Ephesians 6:12 says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So when the campers come to Gimli Bible Camp this summer, chances are we're not going to make life for them at home or at school any easier. But what we can do is introduce them to Jesus, and that can make a profound change in their lives. Jesus, a caring Father that can change so much on the inside of us that what happens on the outside of it becomes less important. A place where they can find shelter, a place of refuge and safety for them, where they will be covered, where they don't have to be afraid of the terrors of night or the arrows that fly in the day, a place where His angels will protect them, a place they can and we can go when everything is falling apart around us. So we can all retreat to Him and find a place where peace surpasses any understanding, where hope can never be snatched from us. A hope that one day those who have called Jesus their Savior will walk with Him where there is no sin, no pain, and no tears. And that is a great hope we have enduring all that comes in our way of life. That is a hope worth proclaiming to all the campers, that regardless of the hard times they've had and will continue to have in their lives, God will carry them through it all if they allow Him to. It won't necessarily mean removing the trials from their lives, but building up their character, because that's more important to God. But what's happening on the inside and what's happening on the outside, but He has both in His control. We desperately need God to reach their hearts this summer and show them how big His Father's heart is for them, to show them what a father looks like, to show them that what happens on the inside is more important than what's happening around us on the outside. Awesome. Let me pray for you guys, and then we'll be done here. Jesus, I'm so grateful for Bayview. I'm so grateful we had the opportunity to speak today. Lord, we just thank You for Your kingdom. God, we just thank You for the psalms, Lord, and just how they wrestle with these messages of hope, Lord, and also yet despair, God. We give to You all the campers who will come to Gimli Bible Camp this summer, Lord, many with really hard stories and challenging times. And we pray that they would find You, Jesus, they would find a personal relationship with You, Lord, and that when You come into their lives and start changing things on the inside, Jesus, that they will feel protected by You, Father, that they will see the battle going around, but know that they are safe in You regardless of what happens around them. God, we thank You for Your plans for our lives. Jesus, we thank You for this day. In Your name.